Hello, I'm Brian Yanas, Assistant Public Works Director. I'll be presenting preliminary refuse cost of service for trash, recycling, organics, and green waste for the Public Works Transportation Committee meeting of November 14th, 2023, and the City Council meeting of December 5th, 2023. Oxnard's Environmental Resources, which I'll be calling ER throughout this presentation, has over 50,000 accounts, with majority of those accounts being residential accounts. We handle over 589 million pounds of municipal solid waste, over 25 million pounds of recycled material, 28 million pounds of organic waste. Collectively, this material is over 644 million pounds. The Empire State Building weighs 730 million pounds. So as you can see on this slide, our waste is almost as much as the total Empire State Building. Summary of our operations. We have weekly collections for residential, commercial, and industrial customers. We have 40 routes. We collect from these customers recyclables, trash, and yard waste, green waste, and organics, which then comes to our material recycling facility, which we separate and dispose of the proper recyclables to the proper locations, as well as organics to the proper locations, as well as recyclables, which we bale and sell. We have 179 employees at Del Norte. We have 138 vehicles, with 109 of those vehicles being heavy duty. We transfer material that comes into the MRF either through our own collections or South Haul. And again, we take these to the proper locations for the proper disposal or reuse. When we finish handling all the material, these are the places we go to take our recyclables. We sell the recyclables locally and worldwide. Our yard waste is transferred to Santa Paula for composting at Aggerman's site. And our food waste is taken to Simi Valley for composting at Aggerman's site. And our trash is taken to the Simi Valley landfill. As you can see, the MRF is our central location. We come in with our collected material as well as the South Haul, and then we take it to the proper locations for the reuse or disposal. Environmental resources capital investments. Our current capital investments, including CIP, is a compressed natural gas facility, our vehicle replacement program, a roof replacement at El Del Norte facility, which is our MRF facility that houses our employees, our operations, our equipment. We also have a scale house and truckway scale project and a video surveillance project. Our efficient efforts. These are the things we do to keep down our cost. One, our budget versus expenses. These expenditures and budget are reviewed quarterly. An annual budget is approved by City Council and audits are performed regularly. Staff seeks and applies for eligible grants. Procurement bids are put out to get the lowest price from suppliers and manufacturers. And we promote our programs and engage the community and customers regarding collections, any services, programs, and any state mandates through social media, news releases, radio, and special events. This slide shows a perspective of inflation since 2013 on the left to 2023. Inflation has had a significant increase, especially in the last few years. The percentages on the right show the increase for the sample items. The increase in fuel, for example, is 55% increase since 2013. These items impacts ER's annual operating budget. Another sample of cost increases are natural gas, electricity, and vehicles. If you look at our natural gas, most of our refuse vehicles that do collection are compressed natural gas. They run on natural gas. This increase of 82% since 2013 is a huge increase, as well as our vehicle for operations has increased over the last 10 years, as you can see in this slide. The Consumer Price Index since 2013 has increased significantly over the last 10 years. The green line on the bottom is the city of Oxnard's residential trash rates. They remain pretty steady, as you can see through the graph, and then it takes a dip in 2021. This graph also shows the increase in food prices, all items, and the national trash rates. The national trash rates shows an increase of 30%. There's a huge gap from our residential rates to the national average for trash rates. We also have state unfunded mandates that we have to deal with, part of our operations, to meet state law. We have mandatory commercial recycling, which was adopted in 2012. We have mandatory commercial organics, which was adopted in 2016. And in 2020, this MCR and MRE was an expansion of the mandatory commercial organics. And today, our latest one, effective January 1st, 2022, is our mandatory organics recycling, which is our SB 1383. So these mandates are unfunded. We have to meet and comply with these new regulatory mandates through our own operating budget. We do not get funding to implement, oversee these state mandates. So for this process, we set some goals up for the rate setting. Public Works staff, along with environmental resources staff, with our consultant Retalis, we created these goals to establish recommendations for the rate model. 1 and 2 is to cover our operating and maintenance costs, as well as covering capital investments. 3, we want to be legally compliant while doing this and comply with Proposition 218. We also want to promote financial viability to ensure we target reserve fund balance, our CIP projects, and we want to include community values as well as fairness and equity. In general, the goals provide safe, reliable, and sustainable solid waste operations. With these inputs and considerations, I'm not going to go over all of them, but these are items that are key components of developing the draft rate study and have a direct influence on the actual rates. These factors influence the preliminary proposed rate change. Staff will be seeking feedback from the Public Works Transportation Committee and City Council on each of these items. I'm not going through these items, but we will be going through these again in a public meeting. This table shows our rate history. Our residential rate for a 96 gallon in October 12th was $29.86. Over the years, there's been a few increases and also a decrease of 3.5% in January 2021. And since January 2021, the rates have remained steady at $30.78 cents for a residential 96-gallon cart. Today, the $30.78 is our current rate that Oxnard pays on their monthly bill for a 96-gallon cart. There's also been some inflation. We talked about it earlier, but this shows from 2020. You can see the CPI increases just under 20%. The garbage and trash index has increased 20% since 2020. There was a huge spike with the PPI in 2022, over 40%, close to 50. And today it is just a little over 40%, which is due to labor, capital costs, and fuel cost increases. Our single family rate with CPI, IUF, and pass-throughs has been pretty steady, as you can see in the past rate history. This graph and table shows from 2013, when we had our first increase, all the way to 2023. Again, our first increase was in January 2013, with a little followed by a little increase in March 2013. Specifically about this graph shows the CPI increasing over the last decade. If we, the city, at a minimum, would have looked at the CPI to increase rates for environmental resources, today's rate would have been $41.99. So this is just showing where the rates for ER residential has stayed consistent around $30, and the CPI has increased significantly over this last decade. The cash balance estimate over the next 5 years, if we don't do anything with our rates, you see the decrease in fiscal year 2025, and that same decrease of estimated cash balance continues to grow larger and larger, all the way down to over $120 million in 2029. This slide is a utility comparison with some of our neighboring municipalities. What I want to discuss here is the average monthly refuse cost per person, per household. Oxnard has the highest of these municipalities listed at four persons per household. Then if you look at our average monthly refuse cost per person, we are the lowest from these municipalities at $7.70. This graph is a graph of our expenditures versus revenues. In 16-17, you can see the total revenues was more than the expenditures, as well as in 17-18, 18-19, 19-20. Then there's a change in fiscal year 2021, where our expenditures are more than our revenue, as well as the following years, all the way to 2024, which this is the model projection, our expenditures exceed our revenues significantly, and this shows us on this graph. This slide, as well as the next 5 slides, I'm briefly going to discuss. These are our proposed rate overviews. This first one is model sensitivity 1. This is no rate adjustment and a full capital expenditures. So this includes capital. Assuming no rate adjustment, ER cash balances are estimated to fall negative as soon as fiscal year 24-25. This is our model sensitivity 2, which has rate adjustments with no capital expenditures. Again, these proposed rate overviews will be discussed by our consultant at all the public meetings in detail. So I'm briefly going over them. Our first scenario is a rate adjustment and a reduced capital expenditures. This shows what our current rate is, and then the adjustments for 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. This is scenario 1. Scenario 2 is a phased rate adjustments and reduced capital expenditures. Again, the rates are shown for the next 5 years, 25, 26, 27, 28, and 29. Scenario 3 is rate adjustments and full capital expenditures. Again, showing the 5 fiscal years and the percentages and the changes of the rate. Scenario 4 is the phased rate adjustments and full capital expenditures. Again, showing our rate increases in the next 5 years. These proposed rate overviews, again, will be discussed at the public meetings and the workshops in detail by staff and our consulting firm, Riftalis. This table, again, is another overview, and it shows all the models here. It shows what the monthly rate increase would be, not the rate for the entire month. It's just the increase. So it has fiscal year 24-25, fiscal year 25-26, fiscal year 26-27, fiscal year 27-28, fiscal year 28-29. It also shows the increase for the month, and it also shows the increase by day. This graph shows the monthly residential bill for a 96-gallon residential cart. This has all the proposed rates, the model sensitivity 1, the model sensitivity 2, scenario 1 through 4 by each fiscal year. And the graph just shows the dollar amount and the amount for each scenario. Again, this will be discussed by our consultant and detailed at our public meetings and workshop meetings. We also have a utility bill assistance. It's called Project Assist. These are for income eligible utility customers for the city of Oxnard, which includes solid waste, our refuse, wastewater, and our water customers. Those eligible can receive $25 per month discount on the utility bill for a combined of their whole bill. It's not $25 per utility, it's the whole bill, a $25 per month discount. That program has been going on every fiscal year for the last 7 years, and it's available again to those who are eligible. Our Proposition 218 preliminary timeline, we're looking at early January 2024 to mail out Proposition 218 notices, which will contain the proposed water rate increases to property owners and ratepayers. And then on March 4th, a public hearing for proposed rates at a city council meeting. That concludes my presentation, and staff is here as well as our consultant to answer any questions.